This is the Bat Flip Podcast. Now here's your host, Damien, David, and Matt. Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of the Bat Flip Podcast. Damien and David here with you today. We are going to be talking about some of these insane runs like the Brewers that have been having recently. We're going to talk about the Yankees and the Mets and their potential or their struggles so far in the second half and what they can do moving forward. And then we will talk about the Padres and Dodgers NL West race. That was once we thought was foregone conclusion on this show. We both said, is this when the Dodgers pull away? And boy, oh boy, were we wrong because they have played terrible. It is back now within a couple games, and they have 2 weekend series back to back over the next couple weekends with each other that we will basically talk about and preview a little bit with that division race. But David, we missed you last week because you were somewhere where your shirt says.
Yeah, I was in Pittsburgh. PNC Park is beautiful. Had a lovely weekend with my girlfriend. We had a great time exploring Pittsburgh and going to the game. Pirates walked it off too, which was really fun. I'm going to take my little segment here and make it a quick Pirates note, man. It's a great group of fans. They were loud for a completely meaningless game in the middle of August when it wasn't too hot. It was nice, but as a Monday night, and there was 20,000 people there. The stadium was full in the bottom level, but not really anybody up top. I mean, it got loud. They were really, really excited for that team, and that's a group of fans, and that is a city that deserves a team that should be winning baseball games and should be going to the playoffs and should be, competing at a high level. And they have talent on that roster. There's not a ton of it, obviously. I think there's definitely holes that need to be filled, but that's a group that needs some work. And that's in a franchise that if they're good, baseball is better for it. Stadium was beautiful. Like I said, city was awesome. I had a great time. And I hate that the only shirt I could get was Paul Skeens. Like, it was the only shirt. There's no other players. Like, they need some love to that fan base. They deserve it. There were so many people walking around with Pirates hats like in the city, but then you go to the game, there weren't that many people there. So that's tough. And I think that city will support that team. I mean, we know that the Steelers are packed out every single time, right? And the Penguins too. Like that city is a sports city, and it's just disappointing that the Pirates are not caught up with the rest of the city in terms of how it should be. So that was my weekend, Damien. How was yours?
Well, I mean, just to hit on your point real quick, you said the city, we've seen Pirates fans themselves support that team when it's good. It is terrible that they have an owner in Bob Nutting who wants nothing to do with being a competitive baseball team, and he wants everything to do with only trying to run it like a business and use it as a paycheck. He can try and sit there and say he loves the city of Pittsburgh and he wants them to be good, and all of his actions go completely out the door. There was a rumor going around that he gave Ben Cherington a whopping $20 or $30 million to work with in off season. This last off season, and what they do with it, Cherington decided to then use it for scouting purposes to try and help that team's infrastructure get better. And that's not going to buy you anything to make this team a competitive team on the free agency market. And that's what you basically gave them to work with. And it's that's super frustrating when you have guys like Paul Skeens right there, and you had affordable contracts with Brian Reynolds and other people as well. It's just, that is, we can go on and on about how bad Bob is as an owner, but my weekend we're good.
Oh, no, I was one last point on this game before we zip on. Justin Verlander threw 98 in the 5th inning. That was freaking awesome. At 40 some odd years old, that was super cool, vintage. And O'Neal Cruz is bigger in person than I thought he would be. So, I thought he would be really big. So those were my thoughts of the game.
Speaking of Justin Verlander, real quick, milestone, he hit 3,500 career strikeouts yesterday. So that was pretty cool. I mean, we just talked about the Kershaw 3,000 strikeouts, just a few weeks ago, about a month ago, thinking that he might be the last person for the foreseeable future to at least hit that number. But Verlander to get to 3,500, that's still another big number as well. But I really didn't have much going on this weekend. Just kind of sat here. I wasn't feeling the best, but just kind of hung out, watched a lot of baseball, watched racing, watched Connor Zilisch. If you guys are NASCAR fans, the fall that Connor Zilic had, I've never seen someone fall like that in victory lane, or just at all off their car. Like he had won, he was celebrating, ended up slipping on his window net, falling, knocking himself out, breaking his collarbone. Could have been a whole heck of a lot worse. His leg bent in a weird fashion that I believe his leg would only survive because he's a 19-year-old. That's the only reason he didn't do any more damage to me. But that was very scary to see for such a talented driver. So glad he's doing okay now. But that was wild on Saturday watching that for sure.
That day was a wicked day for racing incidents because you had the guy who had a heart attack at Bowman Gray on Saturday. You had the wreck off of the Austin Hill wreck off of turns 5 or the carousel. And
yeah, let's not talk about Austin Hill here.
So many. Ryan Ellis had a car land on his windshield.
Yeah,
and that could have been worse. Like it's just that was a wild day. They managed to follow it up on Sunday with a complete snoozer, but my man SVG took it home, so we'll take that.
Yeah, it was something, but it was pretty chill. Just kind of sat back and watched. We had Dodgers versus Blue Jays, so that was two good teams going at it. And it was pretty fun. But let's get to the Brewers here because it's something that we haven't talked about really. We were so encompassed with draft coverage and then getting to All-Star break and then getting to trade deadline. And we're just now coming past the trade deadline and we're finally coming back into it. And, we never took a moment to really talk about what the Brewers had been doing over the past really 2 months at this point. If you don't know, the Brewers are since June 1st, which I'm going to be basing a lot of what my numbers I'm talking about since June 1st. Because I feel like a 2-month sample size is a decent enough thing. Since June 1st, the Brewers are 42-16. Best record in baseball. Second is the Blue Jays at 39-22. If we fast forward since July 1st, the Brewers are 26-7 in that moment. They have pulled well ahead in this division now. I believe it's 6 games at this point. I did some research earlier when I was looking at this stuff because I wanted to see how is the Brewers mark at this point, is it fake or is it real, right? Their expected win-loss number is only one worse than what they are, so 72-45 at this moment. So I went since June 1st, I wanted to look at this stuff. They are 11th in walk percentage for batting, 4th lowest K percentage, 2nd highest BABIP, batting average, and on base, 6th in slugging, 2nd in WOBA and WRC+, 2nd in F4. For the 2nd overall offense in baseball since that point. Go to pitching. They are 3rd in K per 9, 3rd in BABIP, 1st in left on base percentage, 1st in ERA, 1st in FIP, 3rd in XFIP, and they have been the best defensive team in baseball since June 1st. Not identical, but almost a lot of this run also coincides with them getting Andrew Vaughn, who they are 23-4 with ever since that moment. So really, I wanted to get all of my stats out of the way there and then open up the floor to you because as a Cubs fan, this is your division. We've had a lot of talks early on in the season about how good of baseball the Cubs are playing, right? They haven't necessarily played terrible baseball. They've played about above 500-ish, but, a little bit worse than they were playing beforehand. But now you're facing a 6-game deficit to the Brewers in this division. I've labeled up the stats. I think it seems like it's pretty real, right? Maybe not as real as to the point of like, hey, they should probably be at 68, 67 wins probably, even though the expected win-loss is 72. But how are you feeling as a Cubs fan here?
I mean, terrible, terrible. Like this is absurd. And I'll start with the positives, right? I think the Brewers are doing this with a team effort, right? It's a group of guys that has bought into Pat Murphy's philosophies, that have bought into the front office's advanced strategies and scouting. I think you'll see the Cubs fans, right? They're going to be like, yeah, they're cheating. I don't think they're cheating. But I do think that the Brewers are taking advantage of playing, like you said, playing great defense. They are taking advantage of other teams' mistakes, and they have a lot of belief right now. And it's translating into a lot of wins. Anybody in the right mind could see the Andrew Vaughn renaissance coming. Like even the White Sox fans that I follow were like, Vaughn's going to go to the Brewers and be amazing because he was the worst player in AAA. with the White Sox, and he's going to go to the Brewers and figure it out and be amazing. They knew it was going to happen. We all knew it was going to happen, and he's got a 188 WRC plus, 7 home runs and 100 plate appearances. I don't think he ever had a run like that in the White Sox.
No.
But it's a talented player. He's always been talented. He's drafted 3rd overall for a reason. It's ridiculous. Yeah. But I look. You mentioned whether or not you believe in the run. I look at this team. They have the team leader in xWOBA, which is a stat we love to say. Well, that kind of shows how your results are going. Vaughn's hasn't reached qualifying level, but this season their team leader in xWOBA is Jake Bauers, who has 151 plate appearances. He's a bench guy. It's not Terang, it's not Collins, it's not Yelich. None of those guys have an xWOBA above 335. This team is on one of those just baseball runs where everything is falling. You mentioned they were leading in BABIP, right? They're second in BABIP, and the leader in BABIP that you said was Coors, led Colorado.
Yeah,
they're getting everything to fall right now. The grounders are finding holes. This offense is playing well. The Brewers pitching is always going to be good. I will never fault the Brewers pitching. They found, they unlocked, I can't remember which McGill it is. It's Trevor McGill.
Trevor.
To be their closer. They just slotted him in at closer after trading all-star Devin Williams. Lo and behold, he's one of the best closers in baseball too, of course. Freddie Peralta, Brandon Woodruff came back from the worst, 2 years shoulder injury.
Yeah.
Not sure he was going to ever get back to the same form. Of course he's back. Of course he looks great. Nothing is going wrong for them, right?
Quinn
Priester. Oh my goodness. They pulled for a comp pick. You saw the Brewers trading away a draft pick to get Quinn Priester. Yeah. We should have, we talked about it and we were like, I bet they're going to turn him into a good pitcher. Guess what? He's a great pitcher. The Brewers are never going to be trading away draft picks. They traded away a draft pick for a guy. That alarm bells should have been ringing. They've done a great job. They really have, but it's not, I'll say it's not real. I don't think this is the best team in baseball type of team, but I think they're playing best team in baseball type of baseball right now. They are outperforming teams, and they are playing with a belief that they can win every game, and they're going out there and damn near doing it. And it stinks because the Cubs fans are freaking out. They're like, what's wrong with the Cubs? There's nothing wrong with the Cubs. They did a bad trade deadline, but there should have been better. And it doesn't matter what you do if the other team ain't losing games.
Right. Like you mentioned, they are playing best team in baseball at this moment. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean on paper they should be the best team in baseball, right? Mm-hmm. Teams go through these runs all the time. We'll talk about it here at the end of the show when we get to the NL West. I will tell you exactly why this stuff, what we're talking about, runs matter, everything in this game, right? The Cubs aren't having a bad run, but they're a 500-ish level baseball right now has directly coincided with Pete Crow Armstrong and Kyle Tucker taking a big step back offensively, right? Yep. They were incredible for the first half of the year, right? Then they hit a lull. That stuff happens, right? Lulls happen. Every team will have that. The Brewers just aren't in a lull right now. If we were to look at the end of September, or you would tell me at the end of September that the Brewers had a bad September right there and the Cubs raced back in the division, I wouldn't put it past it, right? Because it's the fact that these runs do happen. They are on a crazy run right now, but they are playing as well to get this. It's not a bunch of lucky wins at this moment, right? They're having thanks, Adam.
That's right. They should have. Other people should do that too.
You're right. That's a joke in our dynasty league right here because one co-host here has Will Smith and one has Kyle Tucker, and I'll tell you what, it's not the fans of that team that has those players.
I think there's a deal to be made, but trade deadline's on Wednesday. You never know what happens.
So it is crazy, right? It's almost a flip-flop. The Brewers are playing really good baseball where the Cubs they were playing really good baseball to start the year, and they've kind of came back down a little bit to the 500 level where the Brewers just haven't hit that run yet. So it's crazy at this moment. The stats look like it's real, but there's also a switch that could flip those stats can come back to earth very easily over the next month as well. So we should appreciate, as a non-division fan, we should
Yep.
appreciate what the Brewers are doing, because it is kind of fun just watching teams go on these runs at times. But as a fan in that division, like, I would also hate to see the Pirates or the Giants do this against my team,
Mhm.
right? Or
Right.
like in my division. So
It
yeah,
feels a little. It feels a actually. It feels a little like the Giants in 2021 when they beat
yeah,
out the Dodgers for the division, won 107 games
yeah,
out of nowhere with a team that kind of probably shouldn't have been that good. It feels a
definitely not
lot
that
like
good.
that.
Yeah,
So, I it's worth noting. I picked up Isaac Collins
yeah,
in Dynasty. I'm trying to stem it. I figure I pick him up, he quits playing. He hit a walk-off home run yesterday, so that didn't work. But
yeah.
I will take the benefit from it. He also is probably leading the Rookie of the Year race right now. Isaac Collins is got a 142 WRC plus and 316 plate appearances, 96 games. I mean, it's wild, man. That's crazy.
I want to
He's
look this
30
up
years
real
old.
quick. Let's see, rookies.
Yeah, he's
Drake
30 years
Baldwin,
old.
probably.
Yeah,
I'd
it's
say
him and Drake
Baldwin's probably.
Baldwin because since Mizurowski got hurt, and he's also another Brewer that's just come on and been crazy good until he got hurt. But yeah, it's Collins and Drake Baldwin basically the 1-2 race. I
Yeah,
think right now for Rookie of the Year. I mean, you got the Cubs have a couple of good rookies. K. Dorton, Matt Shaw are good rookies.
yeah,
They ain't winning Rookie of the Year. Just it's going to be this Brewer who's 28 years old and non-prospect that's put together a 140 WRC plus season. Like that's the kind of stuff of you called it a
yeah,
Linsanity run. That's Jeremy Lin level insanity by
yeah.
Isaac Collins.
Um, let's transition to talking about the New York Yankees, because we were talking about since June 1st, the New York Yankees have gone 27-34. Obviously, they dealt with the Aaron Judge injury that happened on July 22nd. Since that point, they've been 7-11. Talking about their bullpen or their pitching in general, which has been a problem since June 1st. They have had the second worst bullpen in all of baseball, behind the Detroit Tigers, worse than the Colorado Rockies, who have a really bad bullpen. As their starting rotation has been 19th in baseball at that point, behind teams like the Angels and that. So they have definitely struggled recently. Pitching has kind of been a crux of the issue, especially the bullpen. Matt and I kind of hit on their bullpen deadline last week. They did all that and then they immediately blew it all again in the same game. But they've kind of had those bullpen struggles again over this past week. So we talked more about the Yankees last week, but what are your thoughts and outlook on the Yankees so far at this point, and then moving forward?
Well, worth noting, since I didn't get a chance last week, I like their pickups. I like their bullpen pickups. I like their lineup pickups, especially to stem the tide of losing Judge. Rosario's already hurt. Slater's already hurt. And Bird and Bednar and Doval all gave up runs already. So
Bird's been optioned to the minors.
Right. And Bird's been optioned. I don't know how McMahon's doing. But like I like their trade deadline, and it ultimately hasn't resulted in anything. Now I do think David Bednar will solidify the closer's role. He was really good with the Pirates. That's one of them kind of psycho closers that I just think will adapt and overcome the kind of the new situation. But I think the Yankees, biggest Yankees problem, they're almost the polar opposite of the Brewers, where we have this team that is built around one singular superstar, not a group of players. And then you've got a complete lack of understanding for fundamentality of how baseball should be played defensively. The Cubs played the Yankees a couple weeks ago, 1-2 of 3. And the reason they won the 2 games was the Yankees defense. It was terrible.
Yeah.
It was just terrible defense. They're not a good defensive baseball team. They play poorly in the outfield. They're not good on the infield. Volpe was terrible. Like Goldschmidt's old, not really picking balls over there. Like Jazz Chisholm's not a great defender on the infield either. That was before Ryan McMahon showed up. But again, Ryan McMahon, like he's a good defender, but I don't think he's not a transcendent defender. He's not going to fix your defensive woes. Like this team doesn't. Austin Wells isn't a particularly great defensive catcher. Like it's all it all coincides to a team that's just not going to win those games on the margins, right? And if your superstars, and they have Aaron Judge and they have Cody Bellinger and Jazz Chisholm at times can be a superstar. If those guys don't hit for you, though, this team gives up a lot on the margins and in the spots where you can't afford to give up. And we figured, it worked for them last year. There is effectively a very similar team to last year, right? We thought, yeah, it'll work out for them again. But it seems like the problems have gone much higher. Like, teams understand how to beat them. Put the ball in play, right? Don't strike out. You have to put the ball in play on this team because they'll make the mistakes for you. And with that book being out, it just seems like they're kind of folding to the mounting pressure because they're having to make these plays. They're having to play this defense. The rotation, which is only, the two good starters, it's Rodon and Fried. It's not holding together with the limited amount of good players that are on this team. So yeah, I'm concerned.
That's what we highlighted, was the lack of fundamentals, basically. It is worth noting they did get Aaron Judge back, I believe, yesterday. Luis Heel also came back this last weekend. He didn't look good, but he is now back at least. That was a guy who was very high level last year for them. So I'm not saying that their season is down the drain. Like, they have pieces that could still make a run here, but you're starting to fall farther and farther back in that division. You're looking at the wild card at this moment, they're only a half game above like the Guardians, 2.5 games above the Rangers. There's a very real section here where if they don't pick it up and play good baseball, that they could lose their playoff spot. So it definitely be something that we're going to keep track of with the Yankees moving forward. And like I said, they did get Aaron Judge back, which when Aaron Judge goes, this team usually goes as well. So we'll see how his return and how the arm is, if the arm's fully healed. He is playing DH at this moment. They're starting to play Stanton in the outfield some. He got to start yesterday in the outfield. Don't want to see that, but I mean, I guess if it has to mean that Aaron Judge plays, then you get Stanton out there for 2 or 3 at bats, and then you defensively replace him in the 5th or 6th inning, and then go from there. Hopefully,
I feel like I'd put a right-handed glove on Aaron Judge and just have him throw lefty, like underhand lefty, toss it or something. Like, I don't put Aaron Judge at first base or something. I don't know. Do something different. It don't seem like a good idea to me.
Well, they don't want Aaron Judge anywhere on the field. Maybe, I don't know. Ask Goldschmidt if he could play third, maybe move McMahon to second and put Jazz out there. So I don't know, man. Like, it's not a great option. That's for sure.
Gosh.
But while we're in New York, let's go to talk about the other team in New York, and that being the New York Mets, who at this point are now 63-55. They're 5.5 games back in that division. They are the last wild card team, only a game and a half up on the Cincinnati Reds at this moment. If we're looking at that June 1st number, like we've been talking about, they have played 27-33 baseball since June 1st. That is right there tied with the Giants, right there with the Cardinals, right there with the Royals, and worse than the Angels and Pirates at this moment.
Yep.
And if we're going to the July 1st number, they are 15-18, still under 500, tied with the Pirates and my Dodgers. We're not going to go there right now.
We'll be there soon. Don't worry.
We'll be there soon. But they haven't played good baseball, right?
Yeah.
And if we want to directly correlate what the problem is here, I did the same thing I did with the Brewers. I did for the Mets because I wanted to see how bad things were, right? They are 12th in WAR for hitting, right? Or for offensive play, I guess. But that also calculates the defense. So I wanted to look in the actual numbers and see what it was. They are 29th in batting average. They have a 231. The only team lower has been the Cleveland Guardians at 223. They are 24th in on-base percentage with a 306. Only teams behind them, Baltimore, the White Sox, Pittsburgh, Washington, Kansas City, Cleveland. They are 20th in slugging. They are 24th in WOBA. They are 17th in WRC+, 29th in BABIP. Only Cleveland is behind them by .002, right? So the 12th in WAR offensively, you're looking at that, does not match up to the actual offensive stats there, right? So then I was like, well, what is their pitching? What's their pitching like since June 1st? 20th in K per nine, 27th in walk per nine, 21st in BABIP, 24th in left on base percentage, 24th in ERA and FIP, and 20th in expected FIP, right? Yeah. So then again, I said, well, I want to drill down on what's wrong with their pitching. So I said, well, let's look at their starting rotation. Since June 1st, 19th, 465 ERA, 419 FIP, 414 xFIP. All right, it's not great, right? You expect the ERA to be a little bit lower, but it is what it is. Let's look at their bullpen. 28th in baseball since June 1st for that bullpen. A 444 ERA, a 451 FIP. Or sorry, I had that flip. The bullpen was 19th. The starting pitching is 28th. Sorry, yep. I had that flip.
Yeah.
But still, 28th for your starting rotation is not good. 19th for your bullpen, still not the best. But I know you have something about their starting pitching since mid-June.
I do. So they have started 14 different players for a game in the starting rotation since June 1st, which that's a you're normally supposed to do 5, maybe. I would give you 5 extra players in a season to start games for your team if you're a good team with good pitching. The Mets have started 14 since June 1st. Different players in a game. That it says a lot about how they're trying to manage this. And then you look at the trade deadline acquisitions, right? It was Ryan Helsley, Taylor Rogers, good bullpen arms, which we just discussed. The bullpen's not been good. It's been below average, but that's not been necessarily the problem. This team is devoid of starting pitching. It's David Peterson and Kodai Senga right now, and that's it. Clay Holmes has kind of fallen off the wagon a little bit. The ERA is up at 4. The FIP is 5.
471.
He's not striking guys out, at least since June 1st started. And I mean, I think that's straight up coming from, it's just a fatigue factor. He hasn't pitched this much in several years, right? He started out the season really strong. He's not pitched this much. It's tough for him to finish batters off right now. He's trying to pitch to contact, but his strikeout rate and walk rates are starting to kind of converge, right? It's starting to get to be closer to 1-to-1 for that. And you really don't want that. Sean Manaea has come back. He's gotten hit around a little bit. You'd hope he gets back to the guy he was at the end of last season. And that was one of your things when we talked about the Mets previously, was that, with Sean Manaea coming back, with Frankie Montas coming back, some of that would help this starting rotation. That stability hasn't been there. No. Montas is a 6.3 ERA, which is horrid. And then you mentioned the offense and how bad they've been in batting average. That's despite Juan Soto putting up a 172 WRC plus in the time frame of June 1st to now, with 19 home runs and 11 stolen bases, 2.5 WARs, one of the best players in baseball in that time. And the team, like you mentioned, has still been that terrible. They've given out 300 plate appearances to Luis Torrens, Tyrone Taylor, and Mark Vientos. That's 300 plate appearances, 3 home runs, a collective WRC plus between those 3 guys of 2 of them have 20. Mark Vientos is a 57. That's a 40 WRC plus between 3 guys. And that's 3 pretty stalwart members of your starting lineup. They're trotting out there with 20 WRC plus, 40 overall. It's a bad situation right now for the Mets. I will say the upper end of this team is still really good, right? Yeah, it's Juan Soto, it's Lindor, it's Pete Alonso, Nimmo, McNeil. Those guys are all still really, really good players. But it's one of those things where it's so tough to build a team around a superstar like a Juan Soto with that kind of, I won't want to call it crippling because it's Steve Cohen, but you have to hit on all your guys around that big player, or else it's just, you're going to have some troubles. And to think Mark Vientos coming off of last season was going to slump like this, I don't think anybody would have expected that, right? I mean, I thought Vientos, he was probably not going to be that good, but I was thinking decent. He's been horrible.
Yeah, the underlying numbers last year were not great. They did have a bunch of regression built in to Vientos' numbers, but at this level, still 57 WRC plus, you expect a little bit better than that. We've talked about runs here and there. Since June 1st, Francisco Lindor has an 80 WRC plus.
Mhm.
He's batting 204 with a 267 on base, under 400 slugging at this moment. Pete Alonso had an amazing start to the year. He's still having a decent since June 1st, but you're starting to see the numbers tick from he's kind of having a high batting average season. You started to see that kind of trick back down. He's at 240 batting average since June 1st, 314 on base. So those numbers still are kind of more in line with what his career norms have been. Obviously the trade of Cedric Mullins or trade for Cedric Mullins too hasn't worked out the best yet either. So there's a ton here that you could say, but it has to come down to the pitching, right? You're not going to go anywhere without pitching. That's what really helped them last year. Sean Manaea's second half, ever since he made that change, was a guy who took off for them, right? They needed to do stuff with the pitching. We were always skeptical of Frankie Montas. We were skeptical of Clay Holmes. I think I was a little bit more on I think Clay Holmes can be fine. Mm-hmm. Looking at the season, he's been fine. But you also knew you weren't going to get 180 innings out of Clay Holmes. You had to build in the factor of 120 to 150. What have you got? You got 122 innings of like a 3.7 ERA guy, right? If you would have said before the year, hey, Clay Holmes is going to have 122 innings and a 3.7 ERA, you'd say, I'd take that. I'd take that right away, right? That was for full season. We're sitting here in August. I would definitely take that. But you didn't have the other contingencies built in with it, right? Especially with the questions around Kodai Senga and that. David Stearns is one of the best executives in baseball. I do not give him fault for this. Sometimes you have bad luck, right?
Yeah.
But other times it's like you needed to do something else. Was trading for Ryan Helsley at the deadline the best move there when you already had Edwin Diaz and you had Reed Garrett? And then you end up getting like Tyler Rogers? Probably not. Probably would have rather that go to a starting pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, this team still has the talent. They just got to figure it out to be legitimately a team that went to the NLCS last year. They still have that talent here, and they added Juan Soto to it. It's just crazy.
Yeah. So the Mets are a case of. We talked about how great the Brewers run has been, but mentioned a little bit of the BABIP factors and stuff like that. I mean, the Mets collectively, and I'm going to hit the team stats on this since June 1st, have a 265 BABIP. I mean, that's not great.
Yeah.
Right. So you'd expect that number to be around 300 usually. If I click the league since June 1st, the BABIP is, it's 265, but since June 1st. Never mind.
29th in BABIP.
But yeah, you'd think the team itself would end up a lot. Oh, it's because I still have it on the Mets. That's why. All teams. League BABIP is 291. There you go. Yeah. Right around 300. So 30 points off on that. And I do want to draw over to something that John Heyman said. He started talking about the other day on Twitter about how, all the high batting average teams are the top 5 teams hitting teams in baseball right now. And I saw a bunch of former players going in and be like, yeah, that's why we don't care about this analytics. You're supposed to get on base. And I was like, well, you get on base a couple different ways. You don't have to do it via batting average. Batting average just helps put pressure on the defense. Right. And I think the beauty of these 3 teams, being able to cover these 3 teams kind of all in order like this, is you look at a team like the Brewers who puts pressure on the opponent with not striking out. You mentioned they are the second lowest strikeout rate team in baseball. You mentioned, we talked about the Yankees, right? Very poor defensive team. Anytime the other team can put pressure on them, the Yankees have folded. The Mets are a team that doesn't put enough pressure on the other teams. They just have not gotten the ball in play very much, and they just have not gotten the fortune when they do put the ball in play to get that fortune going back their way. Because I was the Francisco Lindor thing that you mentioned, he had a 207 on base, 80 WRC plus. The BABIP is down there in the 230s. Francisco Lindor is not going to hit 207 the rest of the year. No. He's just not going to, right? That guy's a Hall of Fame talent. He's going to come back to career norms, right? That BABIP number is going to rise. So if I had to pick which of these 3 teams I believe in most moving forward into the playoffs, I think it's probably still the Mets, because they do play decent defense. They have some good pitchers you can believe in, like Kodai Senga, like Sean Manaea. They have, and those guys haven't pitched much, right? They've had some injury issues. They've had a lot of it is more bad luck related, right? The Brewers stuff feels good luck related, where you don't necessarily want to take that moving forward. The Yankee stuff feels fundamentals related.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm like, okay, if I'm worried about one of these two teams, I'm most worried about the Yankees.
Yeah.
That team, I don't feel like you can fix fundamentals within the middle of the season, right? That team just does not play good defense. They're not going to play good defense.
And it's not even like in the middle of the season. This, we mentioned last week, this was the issue last year. They got through it. But if you listen to a lot of what the Dodgers said, players after the World Series, they basically screamed all offseason that their entire thing during the World Series was like, if we get behind, just keep it close because they're going to lose it for themselves one day, or they're going to lose it, right? You saw that in Game 1 when you had the missed ground ball at second base where Tommy Edmonds' ball got through. You saw it on the ground ball to shortstop where Volpe couldn't field it and throw it to third base in the time. You saw it with Aaron Judge dropping the fly ball in Game 5. That's a center field can't easily. You saw it with Garrett Cole not covering first base in Game 5 against with Mookie Betts' grounder. You saw those fundamental issues last year as well, and they did nothing to try and make those better this year. And that's the problem that I think that a lot of Yankee fans are really kind of frustrated with. But then also Aaron Boone's decision making at points hasn't been great. But you're going to have that with managers, right? It's just not going to work out. But he also faces the scrutiny of being the New York Yankees manager, which is completely valid. I think he does a fine job. But when you're under the microscope and then you have something that was such a big glaring issue last year that the opponent spent all offseason basically saying, and then you're here in this season and we're a bad fundamental team. And it's well, you did nothing to try and change that fact. That's where part of the issue lies, right? So I agree. The team I'm most worried about is the Yankees.
We've done nothing and we're all out of ideas. That's the Yankees.
Yeah, basically. So let's go and talk about the NL West race now. Let's transition over there because I believe at one point, I think it was in our June monthly breakdown. I want to make sure I have that right. Yeah, it says, have we reached the point where the Dodgers will pull away from this division and how many of the NL West make the wild card? I believe at that point the Dodgers had a 8-game lead. I believe at that point.
It was 7 or 8. Yeah.
It was 7 or 8. It was pretty close to there. Since June 1st, the Dodgers have played 32 and 28 baseball. Not terrible, right? But the Padres have played 34 and 28 baseball. So 2 games better right there. Then we get to since July 1st, which the Dodgers' real rough stretch started the end of June 30th, really. They are 15 and 18, the Dodgers are, since June or July 1st. The Padres are 21 and 13. They're playing the baseball you expected them to play, right? The Dodgers offense since June 1st, it says, that it is, the 15th best offense in baseball. Now, this also directly coincides. They've had a 103 WRC plus since that point, which is 12th in baseball. You're looking at batting average. They are 21st in baseball since that point. On base percentage, they are still high because they're a high walk team. Slugging, though, they're 15th. They're a team that slugs the ball normally, right? They're very high slug team. They haven't really been doing that. Their strikeout rate has up to 23%, right? This rough stretch directly coincided with Shohei Ohtani getting back to pitching and being kind of struggling to find his footing again. Finally looks like he's breaking out of that. But also Freddie Freeman, his hot streak kind of ended to start the season, went through a really rough spell for a month, right?
Yep.
Obviously, Mookie Betts' season is basically down the drain ever since he got sick, basically, in Japan over there. He basically hasn't looked good all year. Starting to see little signs of him coming out of it. But again, the whole point here is the Dodgers have not played good baseball since the end of June, really. The Padres, I wouldn't say they've played great baseball, but they've played the baseball you expect them to play. The Padres have also got healthy recently. They've got Yu Darvish back. They got Michael King back. They've got Jackson Merrill back from his slew of little knick-knack injuries here and there. They've had a good deadline getting Mason Miller, getting pieces that just fit into that lineup, like Ramon Laureano, who's been fantastic since going over there. I was screaming for Ramon Laureano to be an option for the Dodgers as their fourth outfielder. They got Alex College, whatever, but I was screaming for Ramon Laureano. Ryan O'Hearn has been fantastic since going over there. They are doing very good things over there in San Diego right now. It is 2 games back.
Yep.
The lead for the Dodgers is only 2 games, and we're going into a weekend series this weekend, Dodgers and Padres in LA, where both teams have strategically lined up their kind of best pitching matchup. Right, it's King, Cease, Darvish for the Padres. It is Kershaw, Snell, Glasnow for the Dodgers. Both teams are using a 6-man rotation. They played the weekend after in St. Louis or in San Diego. The exact same pitchers are expected to pitch again. So this is my division, obviously, right? So I'm kind of spewing on right here, but I'm wanting to say, like, the Padres are playing the baseball we expect. The Dodgers have went through slumps. This is why when I was saying earlier with the Brewers, there's ebbs and flows to a season. A couple months ago, we said the Dodgers were going to run away with this. It looked like they were getting ready to. They hit a really rough patch in offensively, and the Padres have stayed consistent in playing their own brand of baseball through that entire time. And they said, hey, we're not going to worry about that. We're 8 games back right now. We're just going to play us. We're going to worry about it. They've pulled right up. And now this is the spot where the Padres thrive. They're back into this race, and it's going to be fascinating baseball to watch. As a fan of it, I'm going to hate the next 2 weeks. But as a general baseball fan, this has to be what we're dying for here, because these 2 teams don't like each other, and you're getting intense baseball. These are their last 2 meetings for the year as well. They don't play at all in September. So these 6 games are basically going to feel like they decide the division.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. And, it is good. It's good for baseball. I think this is as much a testament to GMs, owners, like, go out there and make a move at the deadline, man. How much does that galvanize your clubhouse when you go out there and make that move? It feels like the Padres are playing with a little extra juice right now. And I think they may take that into this series this next week, right? The Dodgers were mostly, they got a little bit, but they were mostly stagnant at the deadline. They were kind of assuming they were going to go out and get some of those injured players back. And I think the Dodgers are going to be better for it, right? To stand pat and try and get better internally with your own guys coming back. But I mean, this Padres team, I mean, I liked them before the season started. I liked them as a real challenger to the Dodgers. I feel pretty vindicated about just about every point. I think I was definitely wrong. I was wrong about Nick Pivetta, man. I was wrong. He's been amazing. You mentioned it, all the best pitchers. Michael King's been hurt, and he came back and did not look good in his first game back. I do hope he's able to get back to it. He's got an option, but I feel like if he pitches well down the stretch and into the playoffs, he'll kind of opt out and go to free agency, and that'll be a really big target on the free agent market for everybody. But yeah, I mean, there's a reason they've got him slotted in that spot. I'm kind of thinking that should be Nick Pivetta, though. Pavetta's he's been really, really good for this team. The rest of the group, I mean, the bullpen, how about Adrian Morejon, right? Like, that guy is currently leading all of baseball in wins above replacement for relievers, wins above replacement for relievers is like, it's whatever. It's kind of stacking pennies. Yeah. But he's been super, super good. And since that June 1st cutoff, he's got a 1.17 ERA. 30 innings of just lights out baseball. He probably should be getting more like of that high leverage fireman look as we get towards the postseason, where you'll have like Suarez in those more like 2 and 3 run games. Miller probably gets your big time moments, but I think Morejon should probably be right there, viewed as him and Miller being these kind of monster weapons out of the bullpen in any inning, which makes them so much more dangerous when you could go, man, our starting pitcher's not doing so good. And they've got, Shohei Ohtani up. Let's go to Adrian Morejon, right? Yeah. In the 5th inning or whatever it is. Like that makes your team incredibly dangerous. So especially when you're built for the playoffs, like that feels pretty scary. Like a team that could definitely go all the way. I do have to shout out Manny Machado too. I mean, since June 1st, he's got 14 home runs. He's going to, not only he should be a first ballot Hall of Famer when he finally retires, but that might be the next guy we see start chasing those like 400, 500 home run milestones down the stretch. And that's kind of exciting. He's at 362 right now. Is Manny Machado? He's 32 years old. Like, that's a guy that could get you to 500.
I will say speaking of milestones real quick, I wanted to get back. We are dangerously close to Mike Trout's 400th homer. that is going to happen. I think he's at 396 or 7 at this moment. Let me double check that. I know he's really, really close. He is at 398. So he's only 2 homers away from 400 home run club. So it is worth mentioning, jumping back to this thing now, you said that it probably should be Pivetta getting into this. I would say Pivetta has faced the Dodgers once this year, and he went 4 innings and gave up 5 runs and 8 hits. So Michael King has notoriously been strong against the Dodgers. So I wonder if that's maybe a little bit of the reason why. They're also to do with the way they are, the way the staff is just lined up. Pivetta's just not in rotation. They would have to basically almost skip one of his or like push him back like 3 days, which you probably don't want to do at this moment. If you feel confident in Cease, King, Darvish anyways. From that, Adam, you're right. Dylan Beavers does have like 398 homers in AAA. He should be called up. I don't know what they're doing. They rather claim an outfielder Daniel Johnson off waivers than call up Dylan Beavers or the Orioles. But yeah, these next 2 weekends are going to be very vital in this division race, right? The Dodgers got Max Muncy back recently. He's looked good since that point. They've got basically their starting rotation back. They have Blake Snell at this moment back. He's looked really good. I know his one game against the Rays where he gave up 3 runs. They were like Yandy Diaz inside out homers the other way, like George Steinbrenner Field classic. Like they wouldn't have even gone out at Yankee Stadium, and they went out at George Steinbrenner Field. Like, don't know that one. But he looked incredible against the Blue Jays this last weekend, who was we talked about the Brewers were the second lowest team in strikeout rate. Toronto was number 1, and he struck out 10 in 5 innings. Like, did look good there. So both teams feel like they have their best pitching lined up at this moment, given the fact where they're at. The Dodgers offense looks to be coming around a little bit. Padres offense is playing really good. So these are going to be some really fascinating series over the next 2 weekends, but it's going to really go a big thing into what we're talking about at the end of the year, because the schedules do kind of lighten up for the Dodgers a little bit and get a little bit harder for the Padres in September. So you're going to need to take some games here if you want to really bounce back. And remember, each of those games is a 2-game swing. You win it, if the Padres win the first one, they're immediately tied for the division lead. They lose it. I said not immediately, but basically, right? You basically lose it that way. So it's going to be fascinating to see over the next couple weeks. But let's go jump to player of the day and then wrap this one up. So go ahead.
So August 4th, last day you guys were recording. Kyle Schwarber, I think he hit 2 home runs, 6 RBIs. August 5th, Shea Langoliers hit 3 home runs, wins player of the day on, I think it's Tuesday. Wednesday, Gavin Williams almost got a no-hitter, went 8.2 innings, gave up a home run to Juan Soto at the end. August 7th, Jacob Lopez threw 7 really good innings for the A's. August 8th, Edward Cabrera had a 10 strikeout game, did not get moved at the deadline. And the Miami Marlins, we talked about a bunch of teams that were performing really well. Marlins have been really quite good over the last couple of months. That cutoff, I mean, they're kind of in the wild card race at this point. They didn't buy at the deadline. They didn't sell anything. The bullpen's still there. That rotation's still intact. Like,
they have the eighth best record since June 1st at 34-28. Right there, tied with the Padres.
Yeah, they could go on a run. The Marlins team's playing good baseball right now, and Edward Cabrera picking up a player of the day vote there on August 8th to coincide with that. We had Julio Rodriguez grab one with 2 home runs on August 9th, and then William Contreras is probably going to win yesterday's August 10th's player of the day vote for 2 home runs yesterday. So, Damian, who would you like to vote for player of the day or player of the week this week?
I'm between Langoliers and Gavin Williams, because Langoliers' 3-homer game was very big there. But that Gavin Williams game, man, I had turned it on just to be able to watch the last couple innings. I thought he was going to get it. He looked so dialed in. And then it wasn't even a bad pitch. It was like a 96 or something mile an hour leaking fastball away. And Juan Soto just turned and hit it dead center. Absolutely crazy. I thought, and then they left him in still. He was like 117 pitches. And then they were like, all right, just go ahead and stay in there and try and get the shutout, or not even shutout, just try and get it. And they gave up another hit, I think, too, or walk or something. But I think I'm going to lean Gavin Williams because it's not often you get a near no-hit bid. And he was right there. We've seen a lot of 3-homer games this year, even though like Langeliers is having a great season.
Yeah, I'd probably, if you had leaned Langeliers or even Kyle Schwarber, I'll always vote for Kyle Schwarber and give him a shout out. I think that guy, we had talked about how Manny Machado is going to hit some odd homers. Schwarber is going to hit some homer milestones in his career, and that'll make things real interesting for us following along. But I'll stick with you. I'll go Gavin Williams on that. I think, a near no-hitter is pretty good. It's probably the best pitching performance of the week for sure. And then, we've given it to worse pitching performances too. So, we'll go Gavin Williams for this week, and that'll be our player of the week.
Yeah, so that'll wrap up this episode of the Bat Flip podcast. We will be back next week with another one. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Help us on our goal of reaching as many subscribers as possible, but we want to try and push for 500 next. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know down below if you believe in any of these teams. You believe in the Brewers' Linsanity run. If you think the Yankees are the worst team ever right now, let us know down below. Just interact with us. We want to interact with you guys. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys back next week.